Well, history was made last night as the longest ever State of the Union address in presidential history was given by President Donald J. Trump. And some incredible work that has been done by Latter-day Saints was given shout outs during his address. And we're going to go over that, as well as some incredible things happening in the church in Brazil. A lot of cool stuff to cover. My name is Jackson William Paul, and welcome to Latter-day Saints.
What power shall stay the heavens from pouring down knowledge from heaven upon the heads of the latter-day saints?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited for today's episode. It's full of a bunch of different things, from funny to disturbing to funny to disturbing, and everything in between. Brando, did you watch the State of the Union address last night?
You think I'm going to stick that out? You really think I'm going to go through that?
Well,
I mean, I guess that's not a controversial thing to say. No, I did not watch it.
Well, I'll have you know that it was the longest State of the Union address ever given by a president in recorded history.
So how long was it?
Well, if you click on that Deseret News article here, that is like 6 highlights from the State of the Union address, said Trump evokes moments of both bipartisanship and division in record-long State of the Union. So if you scroll down to that first one, it says, in what ended up being a record-breaking speech, President Donald Trump pivoted from policy, blah, 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 blah. His address lasted just under 1 hour and 50 minutes, making it the longest State of the Union address in presidential history.
So did you listen to his speech at the RNC, the Republican National Convention?
I don't think I did. Why?
It was like 3 hours long.
Really?
And I had to stop listening after the first hour because he just started rambling. Was that the same situation here?
Well, no, because, I mean, he was reading off a teleprompter, but if anyone hasn't watched the State of the Union, honestly, I'll say it was one of the biggest pieces of political theater that I think I've ever witnessed. Okay?
I have seen some clips, and it seems very performative.
It was very performative. And before we get into it, actually, we've alluded to this before, but I just want to remind everyone the verses that we have in the Doctrines and Covenants that talk about the Constitution and the formulation of it, okay? Because like I said on Monday when we did our episode talking about, you know, the U.S. hockey team taking gold, shout out to you. My condolences to our Canadian brothers and sisters, all right? Sorry to bring it up again. But obviously in the restoration of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the formulation of this free nation was to was to set conditions for the restoration of the gospel of Jesus Christ happening. And we see in Doctrine and Covenants section 101 in verse 77, if we want to pull up scripture notes there. This is the Lord speaking in a revelation to Joseph Smith, and he says, starting in verse 77, it says, according to the laws and constitution of the people, which I have suffered to be established and should be maintained for the rights and protection for all flesh according to just and holy principles, and that every man may act in doctrine and principle pertaining to futurity, according to the moral agency which I have given unto him, that every man may be accountable for his own sins in the day of judgment. Therefore, it is not right that any man should be in bondage one to another. And for this purpose have I established the constitution of this land by the hands of wise men whom I raised up unto this very purpose, and redeemed the land by the shedding of blood. So we see here in very explicit terms that the Constitution is like scripture with a lowercase s.
Yeah.
Am I interpreting that wrong, Brando?
Well, first of all, how do you read that and think that Joseph Smith just wrote that and that it didn't come from a revelation from God? Just so cool.
It does bring chills to the spine.
Yeah.
But it just reminds me that the formulation of the Constitution, if you look at it in comparison to any other established nation on earth, the fact that it has withstood the test of time for over 250 years without a complete and utter meltdown yet, is pretty impressive. And I do believe that, just as it's saying in the Doctrine and Covenants, that the Constitution and the formulation of it was prepared by wise men that were essentially prophets with a little p, in my opinion, with a lowercase p. P.
And have now accepted the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yes, in the St. George, and their ordinances were formed in the St. George Temple. Look that up if you haven't heard of that before. But anyways, I preface it with this because I just hope that amidst the performative theater that we saw last night, that ultimately that can still ring true, that we can have, because the leaders of this nation are to do what? To support the Constitution of the United States that allows this to be a free nation, that men and women can worship God how, where, or what they may, or they can worship how, where, or what they may, and that we can enjoy this land and freedom of speech and everything that is included in the Constitution, okay? So then the State of the Union is an interesting thing, because basically one of the reasons it was so long, anyone that watched it, is because he would say, and this happens all the time, but I feel like even more happened last night. He would say like one sentence and then a 20 to 30 second pause for all the people that support him to clap. They clap for a little bit and then they stand up and start clapping even more. And then they stop and then he says one more sentence and then they stand up again. Like,
throw an A in the chat if you find that annoying.
But anyways, so then what that created was an interesting game of, are people going to stand up for this or no? Stand up and clap for this or no? And there was a couple times in which both Democrats and Republicans stood up, and we had some Latter-day Saints getting inadvertent shout-outs. And one of those that got an inadvertent shout-out was Nick Shirley when Donald Trump highlighted the Somali fraud that is being uncovered.
Hey, and there's a familiar face.
Yeah, here's the tweet from Kai Schwemmer. He's with, I believe that's Burgess Owens and Nick Shirley there. So there's some Latter-day Saints. The title of that is Mormon-Occupied Government. So that's interesting. But then another one was Senator Mike Lee with his Save America Act that got a big shout out that we'll talk about here in a second. But good to see that some Latter-day Saints are out there making waves and moving needles. But there was a couple interesting moments before we get into kind of the main meat of what we're going to talk about here with Mike Lee's Save America Act that got a big shout out last night and some interesting reactions. But some of the funny highlights that I want to talk about is Donald Trump went on this big rant about how the United States is going to keep winning and we're going to win again and we're going to win big. And to show you proof of this, the United States men's hockey team that just won the gold over Canada. And then he brings out the whole team. And if we want to watch this, he gives something specific to the goalie, Connor Hellebuck. And if you didn't watch the game, don't worry, we'll show you the highlight of basically the play that made it so he was given this Presidential Medal of Freedom. But he brings out the hockey team. And then one of the things as well, Brando, that they've been getting heat for is that phone call that they had in the locker room where Donald Trump is like, we're going to invite you to the White House. And I must say that if we invite you guys, we need to invite the women's team. And like they chuckled at it and it's like, whatever, maybe it's a stupid joke.
I didn't hear about that.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, then
is that a huge like?
Oh yeah, they're all like, look how misogynistic they are. And I have a really close friend of mine that works for the Mammoth and called me yesterday saying that people were calling because we have a player from the Mammoth on the U.S. hockey team, Clayton Keller. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And someone called because this friend of mine works with the season ticket holders, and one of the season ticket holders called and it's like, I cannot believe the misogyny of Clayton Keller. He should be, disciplined, and you guys need to release a statement right now. It was a whole big thing.
Did this friend were they the one on the phone?
No, they weren't on the phone, luckily, but everyone was like, what the heck?
Everything is so politicized.
It is.
Controversialized, and if that's even a word?
Yeah.
It's so annoying. I want to talk more about that at some point. But
exactly. So anyways, then Donald Trump is like, and I'm grateful to announce that the women have accepted an invitation, because then the women came out and they rejected the offer to go to the White House, the women's team. But then he announced last night at the State of the Union address that they are going to come to the White House. So stupid little political thing. But he then recognizes the goalkeeper, Connor Hellebuck. And this is the little clip from that.
But I just want to tell you that the members of this great hockey squad will be very happy to hear, based on their vote and my vote, and in this case, my vote was more important, that I will soon be presenting Connor with our highest civilian honor, which we will be given and which has been given to many athletes over the years. But when I say many, not too many, like 12, it's called the highest civilian honor in our country, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
So if you want to pause there, Brando, that actually got a positive reaction from both Democrats and Republicans alike. And one of the reasons is because of this gas play that he had in the third period, okay? Let me set the stage for you. It's tied 1-1, gold medal on the line. History is about to be made if the United States can pull out this win. And the Canadians have a wide open shot on goal, and this is the play that Connor Hellebuck makes.
Buster's going in, he got the battle boost.
Just wait for the other angle.
There's Vince Martin. Martin shoots the middle. James has one open goal. Put it through the crease.
Look at this.
Take a look. Marner looks for Taves on the backside.
Wide open.
Buster's going in, he got the battle boost. Wow. Incredible. Unbelievable.
The overhead is crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, so then that led to overtime and the U.S. taking the dub. You already know, we went over it on Monday. But anyways, that was one of the funny things. And then there were some other different shout outs amongst the crowd of people like the mother of that Ukrainian woman, Irina Zarutska, who was unfortunately murdered on that train by that guy who had been arrested previously 14 different times. He was an illegal immigrant, from what Donald Trump was saying, and he was arrested 14 different times for things like assault, felony, robbery, and he just kept getting let out and let out. And then unfortunately, he took the life of that young Ukrainian woman who had escaped the war happening over in Russia and Ukraine. And then what happened was he recognized the mother and said that we are going to seek the absolute most penalty for these violent criminals. And you just see all of the Democrats sitting down in silence. And it was just like, what are we talking? Is that a partisan issue there? Making sure that a violent criminal that took the innocent life of a young woman is behind bars for as long as possible? Is that really partisan? What are we talking about here?
It's partisan if you're trying to appeal to the loud minority of people who think that it's partisan.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of weird times where Donald Trump, he would stand up, say something, and then people would, either clap or not clap. But there was one time in specific where he mentioned a bill that has been proposed by Senator Mike Lee, who is a Latter-day Saint from Utah. I think we have 3 Latter-day Saints in the Senate now. We have, who do we have? We have John Curtis, Utah, and then Mike Crapo from Idaho, and then Mike Lee. They're LDS. And so we have this act, Save America, which basically, if you're not tracking, we'll show you a little video of Mike Lee talking about it in a second. But it's basically just to require people that vote in United States elections to show that they are a citizen of the United States of America. I didn't know that was such a crazy controversial thing. And we'll go into kind of the arguments against it that I feel are pretty weak. But after Trump brings this up, and then he makes a pretty explicit statement here of support for one thing, and let's see the reaction from people. So if you want to unmute
Tonight,
there.
I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
You see how long they're clapping, dude? This was every time. Here, I think he says something relevant here. But they're still clapping, dude. This is why it was an hour and 50 minutes long. Okay, I guess he doesn't say anything. That was literally a minute 20 seconds of clapping. Okay, I want someone to go through and see how much was spent actually speaking and how much of the time was spent clapping. But the question was pretty simple. Stand up if you support this statement. Our first priority as leaders of this nation is to protect United States citizens and not illegal immigrants, illegal aliens. Do you feel that that's controversial, or as a leader of the nation in which you live in, that should be your first priority, the citizens that are living in it?
It's not controversial. It should not be Republican. It should not be Democrat. It should be baseline. It's the most basic moral and constitutional responsibility of elected officials to represent the people who elected them, okay? The American people. That is the job description of these elected officials. And it's really, first of all, this just shows me that our nation is hopelessly divided. We are in a very, very hopeless division. And that is sad in and of itself. But, we can disagree about immigration policy and things like that. But it's really disheartening when politicians are like virtue signaling, waving their I'm a good person flags, calling it like global compassion, when it's really hurting the American people. And the fact that they just won't stand up for this basic principle of the American people come first is disturbing and disheartening. I don't know. I'm very sad about that.
It's so weird. And like, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is that a controversial thing to say that your priority as a leader of this nation, someone that is responsible for the running the government of the United States of America, for you to say that your number one priority is to protect the citizens of this nation and not illegal immigrants? Like, what am I missing here? Okay, so this is kind of in response to the Save America Act that, like I said, Latter-day Saint Senator Mike Lee has proposed, which if you click that link right here, that one. So this is a little bit of Mike Lee talking about really what this bill is trying to do.
The man behind the Save America Act, Utah Senator Mike Lee, joins me now. Senator Lee, you are on this. Every day you have been on this, and I've watched you aggregate 50 co-sponsors for the Save America Act. So now the question is, when does this get a vote?
We need a vote as soon as possible, Kaylee, because the American people demand elections that are secure. Right now, they're not. Look at what's happened. Over the last 4 out of the last 5 years, we had an estimated 10 to 15 million people come into this country illegally. Meanwhile, we've got a law called the NVRA that makes it far too easy, especially as it's been interpreted in recent years by the courts, far too easy for people to just go in, apply for a driver's license. You can do that as a non-citizen in almost every state. Check a box, sign your name, and with no additional identification required, and not even allowed under the court's interpretation of the NVRA. States aren't even allowed to ask to verify citizenship. And so this leaves this sort of very dangerous thing in place where a whole lot of people could go in and with relative ease register to vote unlawfully, and the states would be powerless to do anything about it. So this closes a loophole in an existing federal law. Now, as for all of these horrible things they're saying about it, this is paranoid fantasy. Kaylee, our mantra in this, we want to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. The Democrats like and we're willing to accept only the first half of that equation, but we need both in place. We need to be easy to vote, hard to cheat. The Save America Act accomplishes both.
Yeah. So essentially, make it so you have to prove that you're a citizen of the country that you're voting in an election for. I doubt that all these rich people that are part of, country clubs in our government, that whatever they have going on at their country club, they're not going to let some outsider vote in it. I bet you have to prove that you're a member of that country club to go and vote for whatever resolution or new building or whatever. That's just an example there. Another thing, guess where you have to show ID to get in?
Where?
The Democratic National Convention, the DNC. You have to show your ID. Isn't that racist? Well, if we're going off of what is said here in this next clip, this is one of the biggest talking points that says that people are using to say that this is a racist thing, that someone should have to prove that they're a citizen of the country that they're voting in an election for.
So, Leader Schumer, this talk about election security has revived discussions of the SAVE Act, which you have said you oppose. Proponents of it say that it's, to have ID, you have to prove U.S. citizenship to be able to vote. Though some of the claims they make, to be clear, are overstated. We know there's not widespread election fraud. But polling does suggest, there's a new Pew Research poll, that 95% of Republicans, but also 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0. And I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty. And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country.
So basically the main argument against this is that it's quote unquote Jim Crow 2.0 and it's racist to have someone be able to prove that they're a citizen of the country that they're voting in an election for. Now, the subsequent arguments for that really are just really weird. And here's the thing about it. One thing that was included there, 71% of even the side that's mostly opposing this is polling that this is a good idea. And if you click the next link here, CNN actually did coverage on this, and the numbers are even a lot higher as the conversation has revived again on this SAVE Act.
The American people are with Nicki Minaj, because what are we talking about here? So take a look here. Favor voter ID to vote. Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote. The American people.
So I love how in 2026, Nicki Minaj is like the standard of like, everyone's with Nicki Minaj. Anyways, I think she said something in regards of a voter ID.
She's been saying a lot of stuff lately, yeah.
But it just shows you that that is something that the vast majority of everyone in this nation is vying for and wants. And it just shows you that the leaders at the helm, they're not interested in serving the people of this country. Like he said, stand with us if you believe that your first priority is that of protecting citizens of the United States of America and not illegal immigrants. And they all sat in silence. And so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, no, I was just going to say that is reflected among a lot of federal legislation and cultural and social issues. These Democratic leaders often they see the loud minority pushing for these extremes, and that's what they campaign on, because that's what they believe the American people want. But it's intellectually dishonest, and they're not looking at what the majority of American wants. Because I bet you could ask most Democrats, should children be able to transition at 3 years old? And I honestly think most of them would say absolutely not. But there's a plethora of people
loud minority.
Yeah, the loud minority, and so these officials they try and represent them on these social issues, the small amount of people, and it's just not working out for them.
So
just as a side.
Who knows? But yeah, that was one of the Latter-day Saints that got an inadvertent shout out last night. Mike Lee, that is the main backer that proposed again and revitalized this conversation of voter ID. And then we also got our boys here. This tweet from Kai Schwemmer. Okay,
let's go.
I believe that's Burgess Owens, Nick Shirley, and Kai Schwemmer there. And if you watch Trump, he highlighted the Somali fraud that's being exposed over there by the DHS and the FBI. And then Ilhan Omar starts screaming and stuff like that.
We should have asked Kai to get Nick Shirley to come on here.
Yeah, I think they're boys now. So just to finish this off, I'm going to show you, and sorry, trigger warning here. This is one of the most racist interactions that I've ever seen in my entire life, okay? And this is when Barack Obama in 2012 went to go vote in the election, and you won't believe what he was asked.
He needs an ID.
Oh, you bet you're right.
ID?
Hold on. I got my driver's license. Here you go.
Did you see that? He was asked for his ID to vote in the election of the country in which he lives in.
That makes me smile, bro.
Goodness gracious, dude. I can't believe such racism. And then the next,
I wonder what he would say about it now. Like if he would agree with the talking points that it's racist now. Who knows?
We're going to do some research on that. Click on this link here. I forgot what it is. I think it's the one that just puts a bow on it. Oh, yeah. So this is great. So you have Ilhan Omar, senator of Minnesota, who she vehemently opposes this as well and says that it's blatantly racist, right? And she is from, her ancestors are from Somalia. She's Somalian. And then we have this video that comes from Somalia that I think is so shocking and even more racist than the last video that we just saw. So again, she opposes voter ID in the United States, but then what's happening in Somalia?
Somalia's electoral authorities have started issuing voter ID cards across Mogadishu as the capital prepares for its first direct municipal council elections in decades under a one-person, one-vote system. Printing at the Somali Independent Election Committee headquarters operates around the clock in 2 8-hour shifts, producing an estimated 30,000 to 40,000 cards daily. Somalia's electoral authorities...
Gosh, can you believe the racism in Somalia?
Yes.
Requiring people to have citizen IDs to vote in elections?
Wow. It seems like they're really not looking out for their country.
Anyways, it's just this one big ball of incoherence, and just kind of shows maybe there's a hidden agenda here of why, even though their own constituents are heavily in favor of doing this, that they are vehemently opposing it and blocking it from passing. So I don't know. Tell me what your thoughts. Is there something I'm missing here, or is some sketchiness going on?
I mean, I really think the real reason, like taking it back to the performative thing, I really think the real reason they didn't stand, I mean, part of it has to be that some of them really did disagree with it, which is disturbing.
Okay.
But I think it's optics. Like, I'm not going to agree with Donald J. Trump.
Yeah. But here's what's funny, though, is one of the things that got a majority standing ovation and clapping from both sides was when he said that they're going to put laws in place to prevent congressmen from using insider trading in the stock market.
Oh.
So then it's like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Elizabeth Warren, that's worth millions and millions of dollars now, is in favor of that.
Huh.
Okay. That seems a little bit more performative. And so,
yeah.
So if it is, it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. That's why I didn't watch it.
Yeah. Anyways, and that's why I did. And those were some of the main highlights. If you want to go back through the longest ever State of the Union address in presidential history, I'm sure you can go watch that on YouTube. But an hour and 50 minutes, I guess I'll never get back. Probably, I'd say, over 50 minutes of clapping that I watched over 50 minutes of just standing and clapping.
You sat and watched that. Oh my gosh.
I was making
Bathroom
dinner
breaks.
as well. It was fine. But moving on to our next segment of Building the Kingdom. Yes, that was the best title of this segment that I saw from the comments yesterday, where we specifically talk about something happening in the community of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And this was posted by Ulysses Suarez in conjunction with Church Newsroom. And this actually was just posted about 2 hours ago, which is pretty cool. I'll just read the caption here, and then we'll watch a little bit of the video. It says, "On Monday, I had the great privilege of accepting on behalf of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints the highest award the Legislative Assembly of the state of São Paulo can give. This honor recognizes the 100-year anniversary of the preaching of the restored gospel of Jesus Christ in South America and the humanitarian work carried out by the church in this state. I want to thank the members of the church in Brazil who give their time to bless the lives of people in Brazil. Because of their faith in Jesus Christ, they love God and love their neighbor. That is what this recognition represents." So let's watch this little video of him getting this award.
It's a recognition for the humanitarian services the church provides to this country. And in this meeting today, we celebrated this service. Meus queridos amigos, essas ações refletem o ensinamento do Salvador. Porque tive fome e deste-me de comer. Tive sede e deste-me de beber. Era estrangeiro e hospedaste-me.
Pause there.
Servir.
So he kind of just goes over and kind of gives that same monologue that Jesus Christ gave to his disciples, saying, "When I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. When I needed a place to stay, you gave me a place to lay my head." And so shout out to the Brazilians. They're some of the most joyous and charitable people that I've ever met. And I love the people of Brazil. When I went down to Recife, only kindness was shown to me. But that was a really cool thing that I wanted to highlight. So great things happening. And shout out to 100 years of the gospel being preached in Brazil. That's incredible. It's incredible. So anyways, God bless you guys. Thanks for stopping by. And remember, until next time, if you're not looking at the world through a gospel lens, you're only getting half the story. God bless you.